Welcome to the Bank Tellers, where we speak to senior leaders from banks around the world. I'm Anderson Pettet. I'm saying that more for the camera than for you, Michael. I'm VP of Fintech Strategy here at Money 2020. And this episode, we're joined by Michael Pfau, Chief Digital Officer at Axos Bank. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How's your day going?
Can't complain. This is a great conference, and get to meet with a bunch of great vendors and partners, and think I've run into a good amount of people that I've worked with over the years, so it's a great opportunity to reconnect.
I love it. Money 2020 ad right off the bat, and then we can get into the thought leadership. So give us a little bit more about yourself. Like, how'd you get to the bank, and then tell us a little bit about Axos as well.
Yeah, so I came to Axos. Prior to Axos, I was basically a career consultant. I was in the Navy right after college. Did that for a few years, and then segued into consulting. Was on the road a lot, and doing a lot of work for big banks up in New York. I was on the East Coast at the time. Randomly had an opportunity to talk to some folks at Axos about running what was then a smaller internal consulting group, and sort of that was my segue into Axos, and had done some product work and innovation work along the way in my consulting days, and so sort of segued from that into when we made a strategic decision probably in 2016 to move away from having a vendor-provided online banking platform and develop our own. And so I've been very involved in that journey ever since, and product at Axos ever since. So there was no product team, there was no in-house development capability, and so we've really built that up and grown it along the way over the last few years.
That is not a light lift.
No, it's been fun though.
Fun is, you're a special type of person if you see that as fun, I think. A little bit of a masochist maybe, but I like it. I like it. All right. Looking back, I'm curious, what has been one of the most defining moments in your company's growth journey?
Yeah, I think, so Axos was one of the first, if not the first, direct-to-consumer digital bank.
Yep.
So inherent in that, our challenges and opportunities, right? So we don't have a branch network. So, if you need to go in and conduct a high-risk transaction like sending a wire, we don't have a network to do that. So from a challenge and an opportunity perspective, I think, right, it's taking a look at, okay, what are all the things that you need to be able to provide customers to be able to do, and how do we do that digitally? And so I think, that there's an opportunity there to really differentiate yourself. And then also, but there is no branch network, so there is no branch infrastructure that we have to sort of dovetail into from a digital perspective. So I think just sort of the direction of the company in and of itself, there's great opportunities and challenges related to it. But what I think it does, though, it forces us to really focus on the experience to say, okay, if somebody's used to going in to a branch, let's say to send a wire, how do we do that in a secure way through the app, without causing too much friction, while still making it an experience that's not too obtrusive and hopefully it delights people. So I think, the opportunity is, really to be able to focus on one channel and optimize around that channel is something that we look at a lot, and I think is something that we try to look at as a differentiator.
It's interesting. My takeaway from that is that y'all are unique. And one of the things I remember from doing a little bit of research is the date on which I believe it was that you went public.
Yes.
It was specifically chosen, I believe, that you went public on July 4th as
true.
A display of independence.
Yes.
It sounds like that has manifested itself into the culture. Sounds like it was made because the culture was already there, and then that independence has continued.
No, I would say that is absolutely true, and that comes through both in terms of the culture at Axos, the kind of customers that we have. So I think it's sort of pervasive in the culture, all the way from the CEO on down.
Yeah.
That's really sort of independent minded, and how do we do things differently? And look, we're not a JP Morgan or Chase. We don't have the same kind of resources that they do to apply to digital, but we take a pragmatic approach, and how do we take an incremental approach to things, so that we get value along the way, and then we can take that and reinvest it in the platform. I think that all lines up with sort of the ethos of Axos.
Also, limitations creates innovations.
This is 100% true.
Also true. Anyway, I think you might have just kind of asked this, but next one's, what's your secret sauce? Sounds like maybe that was a little bit of it.
Yeah, I think, I look at really, there are two primary things that I see in terms of the secret sauce, if you will. One is, right, we don't have that branch network. we don't have that overhead. So from an economic perspective, for customers, whether it's on the direct to consumer, small business, or on the security side, right, we're able to pass those savings along. So offer better rates, lower fees, things like that. But then also, like I said, on the, if you are, and look, not everybody wants to bank with a digital bank, but
Right.
if you are, and I think obviously that's changed over time, and I think COVID pulled that demand forward quite a bit.
Yeah.
But if you are, then, right, we're really optimizing around one channel. And so we're really taking a look at how do we do things more, efficiently, where do we put friction in at the right place to make people feel secure, but not too much friction so
Right.
that you get, drop off. So I think we're very thoughtful, if we're optimizing around one delivery channel, very thoughtful around the experience, very, very data driven from a cultural perspective. So looking at app usage, where are we seeing fall off, whether it's in the funnel or, if there's a workflow related to a piece of functionality, really digging into that and saying, okay, how do we tweak this? So I think that's one of the things is, culturally, what's really nice, from the CEO on down is, look, we're not going to get things right necessarily 100% of the time right out of the gate. And so part of our culture is, sort of that iteration and, making sure that as we develop and launch functionality, we're doing it in a scalable way that, we can tweak and make changes over time, to try to get things to be a little bit, better, with each increment,
Yeah.
acknowledging that, we're not going to get it right 100% of the time, at launch.
And sounds like very consistently and purposefully not being everything to everyone.
Yeah, I would say that is 100% true. Yes.
Yeah.
And then, like I was talking about the culture before, but part of it is, a real eye on operational efficiency. And I think the way that translates for customers is, sure, yes, we save money. We don't have to hire as many people. Again, pass the savings along to customers in terms of rates, lower fees, whatever. But then also, right, how do we use straight through processing, right? How do we give people the tools that they need to manage their own accounts, things like that? So there's a nice overlap, I think, between how do we do stuff in a more efficient manner, and then also how does that translate into the customer experience and make every session that somebody's on more enjoyable for, what can be a mundane thing of going into your banking app.
Yeah, or just getting in and out of it as fast as possible, right?
Exactly.
Like that. Totally with you. Okay, next question is how you think about innovation inside the bank. I think we've covered that at this point. Seems like you're thinking about it a lot and it's part of your core DNA.
We are, and there's a number of different dimensions that we think about, right? It's obviously the cost component is one. We don't have unlimited resources, so there's always this notion of an opportunity cost of, okay, if we're going to go do this, we're not going to go do that.
Right.
There's always pressure in terms of time to market, things like that. So, and then the scalability, right? So I think you take a look at all those different factors, we bundle those in and say, okay, there are places where, look, it's a core competency, we're going to have to build this out. There are other things where it's an ancillary, piece of functionality like secure messaging or something like that. Like we're not going to build a CRM, we're not going to build, that kind of thing. So that's a place where we partner. Another example is, so we built our platform. Initially it was direct to consumer. We've just completed migrating our small business customers onto the platform away from a vendor our platform that we were using, again, to sort of, improve the usability and the experience. But one of the things obviously really important to the small business world is sort of that ecosystem of other providers, right? So how do we enable connectivity out to, a TurboTax, Quicken, small HR, accounting, payroll kind of providers. And so obviously that's all API driven. And so there's like the discussion there was, well, are we going to build and then maintain all these point-to-point integrations, or can we find a partner who basically, will integrate to them and then they manage that? So, again, I think it's pretty pragmatic though in terms of, and I think that was one where, scalability comes into play to say, look, if we're going to dedicate all these resources to go do this, we're not going to get to these other things on the roadmap. And then there's the cost of maintenance, or we can just pay, we can do this one integration, call that a day. And so I think that's sort of an example of how we work through it usually.
It sounds like you're a lot more nimble than most banks your size. And I don't think I'm supposed to say that on the podcast because there's other banks your size that will eventually be on here. But the ability to build something yourself as a bank your size quickly is
and
rare.
That was part of ultimately the strategy to do that was, right, if we're all in on this one channel, we're going to have to be nimble around that channel to make improvements. Because like I said, not everything is going to work right out of the gate. And so we have to be able to make changes quickly and iteratively, to react to, we own our own SDLC, so we regularly engage with customers. Hey, what's working well, what's not, and that gets back. That feedback loop is part of how we develop and maintain our roadmap to make sure that we're all, we're consistently addressing the pain points that that maybe either we didn't think of or just are coming out of the blue from a customer perspective. There are funny, seemingly random things that will either delight people or really annoy them. And so yes, you have to be able to, for the things that are going well, okay, great, how do we take that and apply it somewhere else? Mm-hmm. And then if you're pissing somebody off about, whatever it is, how do we quickly go and turn that off or change it or whatever?
I wasn't planning to ask you this, but how do most consumers or businesses find you? I mean, you don't have a branch network. I'm not driving by you. Obviously, The internet exists. You started off as Bank of Internet or Bank of the Internet, I suppose. But it's busy digital channels, right? Like everybody's getting Instagram ads, Facebook ads, everything. How do people find you?
Yeah, so we do. There's a fair amount of affiliate marketing that we do. So bankrate.com, those kind of things. Again, that we. Yeah, not usually at the top of the rate tables, but we're up there, right? Just given our footprint. We do have a brand that sort of more caters to those folks and is a little bit more high yield focused. So primarily there on the direct side. And then one of the other areas, so I think I mentioned that we've made some acquisitions in the security space. So we now own a custody business as well as a clearing firm. And so one of our strategies is, obviously, there's direct to consumer, but we have an indirect to consumer channel really through this B2B2C relationship. So the brokers and the advisors that do business with our securities companies, they obviously have retail end investors that they do business with. And so part of one of the primary areas that we're working on right now in our strategy is building out or extending out our direct to consumer platform so that, let's say I'm your advisor, you can download the Axos app, establish credentials, whatever, but then log in, you can see your transaction history, portfolio balance over time, performance, there's performance reporting, trade conference, all that fun stuff, enable money movement, and then also use the personal financial management tools that we have inside the app, so account aggregation, credit score monitoring, those kind of things, which obviously, gives us real gold in terms of identifying, if you're seeing people's transactions, you sort of have a rich amount of data on them. You can make informed and really value-add cross-sell offers, because I think if you're just sort of pushing product that doesn't take people, that annoys people, can rub them the wrong way. But if it's, hey, I see that you were charged, $200 last year from whatever bank. Mm-hmm. Open an account here. We have a no fee thing, and so it's really trying to identify value using those things.
Turns out there's a lot of value in that data, huh?
Yeah.
Who knew?
Exactly.
All right, let's take a little left turn into Michael. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and how has it shaped your career?
If you want to grow, you have to be uncomfortable, and you have to be okay with being uncomfortable.
Are you uncomfortable right now?
Only just the light. But
okay, we'll see.
No, but earlier on, no, it's a yes. I think public speaking is, it's get over that, whatever. Yeah. But no, I think just that of like whether it's on the functional side of trying different things. I mean, I think as a background as a consultant, it was not uncommon to be like, hey, congratulations. You just got staffed on this, buy a plane ticket to wherever for Monday and go buy a book because you're the subject matter expert on whatever. So I think from that standpoint, consulting was great because it really did, the Navy was great too because it was some out there different experiences, but consulting was really positive from that standpoint in that, trying new industries, doing, working in different functional areas and sort of being okay with not being completely secure with what's going on, but having enough of a grasp of, how do I approach things? How do I develop a framework for thinking through problems? It was really sort of fungible and it can be applied anywhere.
So what the opposite of fungible feels like the Navy. So it feels like you went from,
very structured to
maybe slightly less structured, but everything was still in quadrants. So you had to structure the unstructured, right?
Exactly.
I'm curious what from the Navy, and this is not on the list, but what from the Navy you've brought forward into leadership style. I mean, imagine you learned a lot. How long were you in?
Just under 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, no, so it was great. I was a 22-year-old kid right out of college, and I was in charge of, whatever it was, 40 or 50 really, no pun intended, salty people, who I was the idiot, and, I was, because I didn't know anything. No, but it was good, again, sort of being uncomfortable, like knowing that I didn't know everything, figuring out who were the people I could go to who would sort of help give me a lay of the land, help orient me. was good. And I think that's universally translates, across industries. It was the same thing in consulting and, same thing in banking as well.
100%. I'm curious what advice you'd give to someone aspiring to be a chief digital officer one day.
So I think it's funny.
That 3-year-old out there just
Yeah,
dreaming
exactly.
of it,
This is what I want to do. This is my
I
dream
know
job.
what I want to do. Fuck
Yeah.
the NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
Chief digital officer.
No, I think, so from a digital product perspective, I think it's really important to understand, and obviously I think, retail banking, all of us, have accounts and move money and all that stuff like that. But on the security side, it's, what does a day in life look like? And really understand, talking to people. One of the, obviously, so, I have, accounts at, I don't know, dozens of different, places where I have a couple bucks here and there just to move around, just to sort of see what the competitors, right, what competitors are up to. But inherent, like in the retail business, right, you're a consumer of it, so you sort of understand it. On the security side, what's been really interesting as we've expanded in that space is, sitting with clients we have client advisory boards on both sides of the securities business. Those are invaluable because you hear, again, things that you would not necessarily expect that are like the biggest pain points, like password resets or, silly little things. You're like, that just sort of seems like table stakes, but it's not. Or, well, I have these 6 different systems, each with a different login. So the swivel chair, right, in the securities industry is something that's real. So I think it's taking the time to understand if there's a direct, consumer application, obviously that can be a little bit easier, but you really have to understand what is it that I'm trying to solve for? And that obviously differs by different groups. And so I think the direct to consumer space is slightly different than the small business space, which is different than security. So, but really understanding what are those folks going through on a daily basis? What are their pain points and what are we trying to solve for? Because you can't come up with an optimal solution if you don't understand sort of what the specific pain points are.
100%. Absolutely. If you weren't in fintech/financial services, what career would you have pursued?
Well, unless you could change the fact that I can't hit a curveball and play for the Yankees. No, I think, the Navy was a great experience, and hats off to the men and women who are deployed around the world literally every day of the year. That's a tough life. No, I probably would have been a career consultant had it not been for coming to Axos. The pace of consulting is, it can be off-putting, I think. I sort of enjoy it. I don't know if it's my adult ADD or what. But Axos has sort of scratched that itch also is, when I joined, it was, we were developing the direct-to-consumer platform. We've added in, investment products now with the foray into the securities industry. So Axos is such a dynamic place that, I enjoy that. And I think, but the consulting aspect, I probably would still be in consulting, I guess, to directly answer your question.
I'm curious if you feel like your learning curve has shifted, or maybe a different way to phrase it is, are you still learning every day?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what's one of the things I think that's really cool about Axos is, right, if we were just sort of a direct-to-consumer digital bank offering, good rates on CDs and good rates on mortgages, like, okay, that's interesting for a while.
Right.
But over time, again, as sort of, okay, there was a learning curve associated with building our own platform, with building out, the development capacity we have with forming a product team, right? There was that learning curve there. And then now you start to layer in, investment products, a securities industry, right? I mean, talk to broker dealers and investment advisors. I mean, that's a really complex world, much more so, I think, than banking. And so, there's still challenges there. And I think that's what keeps me excited is, I don't know, if you're not sort of learning and pushing yourself and you're not sort of challenging yourself, you're not growing. I haven't run into that wall yet at Axos.
Yeah, no, I haven't either. The word fiduciary is the reason I got into this. I literally did an internship at Merrill Lynch and I was like, wait, this is all legal? Anyway, so next one, describe your leadership style in 3 words.
Trust but verify.
Nice.
I think, look, at the end of the day, I would say that sort of maybe not directly in the Navy because there were some knuckleheads there, but by and large, you're dealing with professionals who are motivated to do the right thing, but it's making sure that everybody actually is aware of what the right thing is, what the right priorities are, what the strategy is, and then making sure that nobody catches like shiny object syndrome and is off chasing things that don't need to necessarily be chased. But look, no, I think I've got a great team. I've got the people that run each of the teams underneath me, have years and years of experience. And so I really view my job as, making sure that they understand sort of where we're going, and that all the different roads of the different teams are dovetailing where they need to, because the reality of the business now is like the lines between direct to consumer and sort of the indirect channel and then the securities, it's all really blending. And so making sure that everybody's on the same page, understands not just optimizing for what their business unit leader wants at that moment, but how do we deliver that value while still moving towards the overall enterprise strategy?
It doesn't seem like it would be super easy to balance the not chasing the squirrels or the shiny things, as you said, with the general culture you have. Like, I feel like the people that you're hiring are people that, and you, just having met you for 30 minutes, I feel like you chase a squirrel here and there just out of sheer fun and curiosity.
Yeah, I think, and that's why, events like this and sort of our focus on innovation are cool, because it's on one hand, it's really exciting because you get to talk to all these different companies, talk to all these different folks, but you still sort of at the end of the day have to have that discipline to say, okay, is this going to bring value to Axos, number one,
Right.
and is it the value that we need now, and is it going to provide that incremental value? Are we going to get, is it going to grow revenue, all those kind of things.
Yeah. All right, Michael. Final question,
Yeah.
my friend. You have the global ecosystem of money. Isn't that a sexy term? Global ecosystem of money. And you say it in that tone. Tuning into this podcast, what's one thing you'd like to leave the listeners with? Be it inspirational, be it advice, be it close your bank account that you've had open for a year.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously open up an Axos Bank account. No, I think, look, I was, down on the floor earlier. I think this is a great venue. I think it's really, really well done. It's got the right balance of maturity in terms of the companies that are here. But yeah, I think, look, for all of it, like, we're not going to, you're not going to solve your issues sort of being insular. And so the more people you can bounce ideas off of, and no single person has the market cornered in good ideas. And so sort of having that iterative process of, bouncing ideas off people that and trust, seeing what's new, being curious how you can fit new things in. It's really sort of, I guess it really, it goes back to innovation, right? Of like, how can we, how do we sort of identify cool things? How do we quickly assess whether is that going to add value, or is it just sort of a flashy, or is it the topic du jour?
Yeah.
And sort of, but using that network and having a focus on, is this going to add value, or is it just sort of something that's a headline?
Sounds like come to Money 2020 with a set of questions and problems and get them answered.
That's
good advice.
There you go.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate your time.
No, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.